Okay, what's up, everyone? So I wanted to make a quick video. I say quick, but I wanted to just make a quick video about some of the things I wish I'd learned before. Call it your thirties or whatever. But I think there's been a lot of coverage lately about the cost of living, what's happening obviously with the Iran and Israel conflict, and all the kind of stuff. And I've been kind of thinking about this before, about making a video about some of the things I wish I'd done before, not necessarily on these topics that are going on right now, but just a little like sort of things that things have kind of been on that I've just been thinking about. So I won't reveal my age just for the purpose of you guys not knowing how old I am. But you can take a guess. But I just wanted to make this video with regards to a few things that kind of wish I'd done before, and this might apply to some guys also in their 20s, not just 30s. But one of the things that I would really, and this would be relative, right? Because I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, it comes down to disposable income. Not a lot of us have the kind of disposable income that we can use to, sort of make investments and stuff like that. But this is not to be regarded as financial advice, right? This is just my perspective. I'm coming from my perspective, some of the things I wish I had done. It's never too late because you can always start investing. If you're somebody who likes property, you can look into property and all this kind of stuff. This is just, a video that I wanted to share some of my thoughts. So, yeah, so I kind of briefly talked about or covered just about, the things that are going on now in the world. And yeah, so let me just get into it. Okay. And just a quick plug, guys. If you're watching this for the first time, thanks a lot for viewing. Thanks for coming on. Please subscribe and like and share this video with some of your friends, family members you think that might be useful. And yeah, just follow, subscribe, share. So the first thing I wanted to say, or the first thing that I think I should have done, I probably should have done a little bit more in my 30s, maybe not 20s, because 20s, in 20s, you're still kind of figuring things out, right? You've probably not got a mortgage. If you've got that, you're still kind of probably working out your career. You're still loving going out with your friends and all that kind of stuff. And that's cool. I get that. I mean, I was in my 20s. I still count myself as young. Excuse the white hair. But here's the thing. I think as I got to my 30s, I think the one thing that I probably would have started, and I guess the number one thing would have been to start investing. Now, just to give you a sort of brief background, I'll talk about the different types of places people can, open up, places for them to start investments, stocks and shares, because there's so many places, right? So, first of all, some of these things we were never really taught about at school, and that's kind of where some of these issues emanate from. We're taught to learn all these things. I'm not saying it's bad. We're taught to learn. We're taught all these things about algebra and you know, angles and geometric angles and all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying any of that stuff is bad, but here's the thing: we're never really taught about finances and how to manage finances. And I think partly there's a reason for that because I don't want to get into conspiracy theory stuff and all that kind of stuff, but because you could argue that because the country you live in, the people that run the country want you to grow up and be contributors to society, and that's through having a job. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. I have no issue with people getting jobs and all that kind of stuff. We all got jobs because we got bills to pay, right? But here's the thing: when we are at school, when there's never a sort of I guess a class on like how to manage your finances. So going through certain scenarios about what happens when you leave school and you get a job and you got all these bills to pay, all these bills to pay, and just kind of how banks work when you get paid. What should you consider doing? Should you put 10% of your money in? So okay, just to give you an example. So one of the things I've learned a lot by reading books and watching a lot of podcasts is the principle of paying yourself first. Hang with me, hang in there just a sec. I don't want to lose you. Paying yourself first, you might think, okay, well, hang on a second, what do you mean? Because when I get a salary and I get paid, it all gets in my account. So I get paid first, it goes straight in my bank account. Okay, yes. But what I mean is from a purpose of managing your money better. Okay, so not being caught up in the consumer mindset of just saying get your money and oh great, I've just been paid, I'm on a rush and get that car that I've always wanted to get because I've been waiting this long to do it, or I've seen this Gucci bag or this Gucci top I've always wanted to get and I'm gonna rush out and get it. Where I'm coming from is the point of paying yourself first. Is when you get paid, don't rush to spend that money. Right? This is some of the things I wish I was taught before, and to be fair, some of this teaching could have come from anyone, uncles, parents. But this is where lies the problem because we were never taught this. Not only were we not taught this in school, but we're not taught by our big brothers, our uncles, our parents. Because let's face it, they were probably not very good custodians of their money anyway. You know? So here's the thing. Paying yourself first is a principle I've come to understand in that it means when you get paid, you don't spend all your money straight away. Or you don't rush and buy that thing that you wanted. So delayed gratification is another phrase, and I've heard this said a little bit. So delayed gratification and paying yourself first is all about okay, I've been paid, putting together a spreadsheet, and in that spreadsheet you've got what comes out, what's what needs to be paid. So you've got your mortgage, you've got your rent, car payments, whatever it is, you've got it in there. So you've got an absolute first view of what money that has come in and what money needs to go out to certain places. So the stuff that you need to take care of first. Now the pay yourself first principle comes initially from after you've worked all those different things out in terms of what needs to be paid or whatever, is you now see what you have left at the end of the month. So once your rent is sorted, your mortgage is paid, is allocated, your car payments, even fuel, how much you think you need fuel, travel, if you're somebody that travels to work and all that kind of stuff, all that information in there. And then at the end of the spreadsheet, you should have a difference of your salary minus all your expenses and then what's left, call it disposable income. And then what you do from there, and mind you, this is even before you've spent all your money, is you now allocate your pay yourself first. Now, this could be money that goes into a savings account or it goes into a stocks and shares ISA account. And I'll do the stocks and shares ISA account video maybe another time. But stocks and shares ISA account is just basically an account where it's tax free and you can put your money in there and basically you can invest in whatever companies that you want. So there's different types of companies. So say, for example, you don't necessarily have to, if you don't want to go through the, exponential crazy amount of time it takes to look in individual stocks because there's so many, right? And picking one, you can create what's called index funds or ETF funds, which are kind of one fund that's got like over 3,000, 5,000, sometimes even 10,000 companies. And you just put £100 a month and it goes straight into that ETF. So what you're doing is essentially think of it as a pie, right? Or a cake. Let's put cake. A cake has got different slices. When you cut it up, so cake is round, you slice it up. Imagine taking 3,000 small little slices of that cake. With £100, that's essentially what you're doing. So you can have like a stocks and shares ISA with a company like, not with a company, but with an ETF like, I don't know, S&P 500. In an S&P 500, you're going to have your Tesla, you're going to have your Amazon, your Google, your Apple, I don't know, what other sort of big tech companies are involved. And whenever one company doesn't do as well, guess what? They just take that one out and they replace it with another one. And here's a little bit of a stat for you. On average, the stock market since inception has returned a rate of about 8%. So that means if you invested your money, I'm sure you're not more than 100 years old, but let's just say if you invested your money in 1924, and you looked at that same account today, your money would have appreciated, and have a good rate of return, at least 7 to 8% since the beginning. So the stocks and shares, ISA is simply a place where you can invest, and you can open this with a lot of different types of providers out there. You can look them up. One of the ones I use is called Trading 212 because it's got almost minimal fees. And it's very easy to use. So I know a lot of people use that. But the point I'm trying to make is that when you pay yourself first, whether you put your money in a savings or stocks and shares ISA account, is that paying yourself first mentality. And what that would have allowed you to do is over the years. So if you start investing or saving in your 20s, 30s, you would have had by the time you get to your 40s, really a good amount of money. So that's like paying yourself first. And the delayed gratification is just about, kind of living below your means. I mean, we all have to enjoy life, right? Enjoyment. But at the same time, I wish earlier on I would have had more of a grounding and a teaching about these sorts of things, because I mean, I'm not in a bad place now, don't get me wrong, but I think there's a lot of areas that we need to educate ourselves about, or each other about, and it's about how to find ways to make your money work for you. And these are just some things that I feel we're taught. I feel we should have been taught a lot younger, because there's a lot of benefit to it. Also interesting. I also read that in the UK, and I think also in the relative to the US, there's not a lot of people that have an emergency fund. And the emergency fund is just simply just a pot of money set aside, whether call it savings, that if anything went wrong, whether you went out of work, your car tire burst, or there was an emergency in the house, you had a fund available that you'd be able to use to fix anything that you need. And therefore, if you had like a stocks and shares ISA account or investment account, then you wouldn't have to withdraw out from that. Because as I mentioned before, the longer you leave your money in a stocks and shares account, the more it's likely to work better for you. It's actually better than a savings account, because arguably £100 today is not going to be the same £100 tomorrow, because the goods and services that you want to pay for next year, the £100 that you put in the previous year is really going to be worth about £80. So you probably lost 80, £90. So you've probably lost a good 10 to 20% of the income. Whereas if we put in a stocks and shares ISA, because we know on average the stocks and shares have a rate of return greater than when you're having a savings account. So it's a good way to, invest for your future. So I guess that was the main thing that I wanted to cover, is just, that financial literacy, which I feel still a lot of us still struggle with. And what we don't want to do is get to a point later on in our years where we haven't really built that understanding, because get what? The older you get, the closer you then get to retirement. And the sooner you realize, hang on a second, I haven't really stored up much here for my future. So I think that would be the main thing, I would say. So just really understanding your finances, knowing not to be consumed by consumerism, because let's face it, a lot of us are. We just, whenever we get paid, whenever we get a bit of money, we just want to go out and spend it. But if we're talking about wealth building, and I guess that's what it is that I'm really talking about here, that's the crux of it. It's about wealth building. A lot of us have been in situations where maybe our parents never had much or passed down much, because they didn't have that financial literacy about storing up for the future generations. And that's whether that's investing, whether that's in property, stocks and shares, and whatever things bring value. We've always been locked in a consumer mindset. And I think that would be the one thing that I would have loved my parents to share with me when I was younger, or even just start and say, hang on a second, I'm going to tee up a stocks and shares ISA. He's only 9 years old today, but I know within the next 10 years, I'm going to be adding this, adding money to this. And I want them to, by the time they get to 18, to know that this thing exists for them and it's for their future. And then also along the line, I've been teaching my kids about what it means to have finances. That, okay, if you have £5, you've done your little bit of chores, maybe you've done your homework, and I've given them a bit of money. I put £5 in their account, and I said, hey, this is money you can spend. But actually, I want you to understand that this £5 is not for you to just go and blow it straight away. I've given you this £5 because you've worked hard for it. But what I want you to do is now think wisely about how this money can be kept. How could you make it grow longer? And some people might feel, well, that's a bit, not a good idea teaching children at that age. Maybe. But the point that I'm trying to make is that we have a duty and obligation to teach our children about managing finances, because we weren't. They're not going to get it from schools. They're going to go to school. They're probably going to go to university, or who knows with AI now. And they're just going to get out and going to be like, right, I'm ready for my paycheck. They're going to get their paycheck, and then they're going to go and spend it on a Mercedes, on PCP, or hire purchase. Then they're going to go out and they're going to eat expensive meals and all that. Hey, I'm not saying anything is bad with that. What I'm saying is, what's the financial literacy side of things? What have they been taught? Yeah, they've been taught to go to university because you need to get a job and do all that kind of stuff. Not going to happen with me. It's all about information and knowledge. You get paid £2,000 a month. is it worth putting half of that on rent or mortgage, which you should, because that's you have to pay, you have to keep a roof over your house. But with that other money that's left, maybe we should think about it a little bit differently. Think, okay, well, I've paid my rent, I've paid all the bills that I need. Do I really need to go and spend money on this car that's worth, I don't know, 30, 40,000? Maybe I could get a car that's a third of that price, but will still get me to A and B. Maybe I don't need to buy all these expensive clothes. I can go to this outlet and I could buy this for right now, and that would do me just fine. There's no need to keep up with the Joneses, but there is a need to keep up with the future. And the future is looking after yourself now and in retirement, and looking after your children, because this is all about building wealth, right? So yeah, I just wanted to share that quick. Look out for another video. I'm going to do another video on another key point about some of the things I wish I'd learnt before, whether it's my 20s or 30s. But I wanted to concentrate this one on finances and building wealth, because I think now more than ever, with everything that's going on, it's so important. And then also, just to kind of drop in another one, people will say, okay, well, what about with all the conflict that's going on and stuff like that? The other thing I alluded to was, since the inception of the stock market, it's gone through 2 world wars. And whilst through those 2 world wars, there's been dips and there's been ups. But what you will see is consistently since the beginning, and I want to highlight again, this is not financial advice. I'm just giving you an overview of the stock market. Is since the beginning of the stock market was launched, it's had a projection that's literally been upwards. So call it ascending. And whilst in between, there's been dips and troughs and ups and downs. When you look at the graph over time, so since the 1920s till today, 2025, the stocks and shares, the stock market has had an annual return of 8%. I mean, figuratively, depending on which ones you look at. But the point I'm trying to make is the trajectory has been like this over time, over a long period of time. Yes, there's been dips and stuff, but over time, it's proven to be a worth investment. And if you're going to put stuff in a savings account, fine. But here's the thing, with inflation and all that kind of stuff, like I mentioned before, £1,000 yesterday is probably not going to be £1,000 next year. So food for thought. Hey guys, just want to say thanks for watching this video. If you like and you understand what I've been saying, even if you don't understand and you just want to add your comments and say, hey, I'm wrong, you're talking gibberish, or hey, get a shave, drop it in the comments. Like and subscribe, share, please share with as much as people as you can. Let's get this channel on the up. I'm just a regular dude talking about regular stuff that I like talking about, because let's face it, nobody else is going to hear it. Well, maybe you. All right, till next time, peace.